Mark and Paulette here, the two travelers in Mexico, and yes, we did it. What did we do?
We got our RFC. Woo-hoo!
Finally. Yeah, a little happy dance over there. So some of you may be wondering, what exactly is an RFC? What's it used for? It basically, it's sort of the equivalent to a social security number, and the SAT office is basically equivalent to IRS in many respects. And so they use it to track your income from jobs that you earn money in from Mexico. Our pension and Social Security comes from the United States, so that's not counted. We followed the instruction. We went to the website sat.gov.mx and created an account, got into the virtual line, and here is a tutorial on how you can do that same thing. Once you're at the site, you'll close this advisory screen. Next, you will click the button on the left-hand side. And on the next screen, you'll select the third option. In this screen, you will input your CURP number, your full name, your email address, and then you'll put this code in at the bottom and then submit the code. Here, you will select your reason for the appointment at the SAT office. Next, you will select the state in which you want to go to the SAT office, and then you will select the location within that state. Here, you will click this button. There, it's basically a button that says there are no appointments available immediately. You'll have to go into the virtual line. Here, they will email you a token. You put it in there. Once the token is in, you click the re-NVR button. And there's your confirmation. You're all set up. Congratulations, let the waiting begin. To check where you're at in the virtual line, you will click on Consultar, the right-hand option. Click the box so that you can use your CURP number. You will enter your email address and then the code you see at the bottom here to prove you're not a robot of some kind. Once you receive that number, you input the number here, click on the re-NVR button, and in the next screen, your number and line will appear here. So, after following what we just showed you to do, waiting in a virtual line for 5 months, 5 meses, we finally decided to go down to the SAT office and get an appointment there. Number one, because our bank kept closing our account because we didn't have an RFC number. And so I'll let Paulette explain what happened once we arrived at the office.
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit because I'm more detailed than he is. As far as
one more outburst like that, and I'm going to be checking you into La Casa de la Mujeres Loco.
Anyhow, so we were number 66 in line after 5 months of waiting. It wasn't really moving at all. I mean, at all. So we printed out the day that we went to the SAT office. We got online and we did our virtual printout to show them that we had done this back in April. And it said that we were like number, what did it say?
63.
Or 63 when we went. 63 and 62.
You were 64.
Okay, 63 and 64. And I lost my train of thought.
Well, that train leaves the station a lot. Often Paulette is still standing on the side.
Stop. You're the one that has dementia, I think.
No, again. La Casa de Loco Mujeres.
Okay, so the deal is that we were number 63, 64, and it showed you out of what number were you. Okay, so we were that number out of 1,800 and something, which is insane.
Yep.
So we took that printout with one of my friends. I asked one of my Mexican friends if she would come with us. It would make the whole process a lot easier, so we did that. And our office here in San Luis Potosí opened at 8:30. We got there at about 8:45, and she explained to them that we needed an RFC for our bank account because they kept closing it on us, and that we needed to buy a car, and we needed the RFC for both those things. Luckily, she talked to a manager, and it was okayed. So I went first with her, and it took about an hour, I would say, for me to go through the process. They did not do the photos with my eyes, that virtual thing, right? You said that you put like little goggles on. They did not do that. Mark will talk about his, as the video goes on. I didn't have to do any of that because I'm temporary residency visa. He's permanent residency visa, so his process was different than mine. I didn't have to use the USB. I didn't have to download anything. I didn't have to do anything like that. But it still took about an hour process. But they did ask what my cross streets were. They did ask what color my house was. Yeah. So, and then after I was all done, then I came and I sat down and I waited, and then my friend took Mark, and his process probably took maybe an hour and a half because he had more things to do as a permanent.
A little bit longer. They didn't do us together because they needed like the original copy or the original of our CFE bill. And so they took Paulette first. Hers was a simpler process than mine. After she came back, then I was next to go, and so I went to the first desk where the guy took all my information, looked at all my paperwork, asked me for my USB drive. Now, as Paulette said, she did not need a USB drive because they did not create an electronic signature for her, being as she's a temporary resident and can't, in theory, work.
Now, wait a minute.
Here.
They did ask me when I did mine if I was going to go to permanent. And I said, yeah, in another year after my temporary residency expires.
Right.
But they didn't, it didn't matter. It wasn't important. It wasn't an important piece or anything like that. Didn't matter because right now I held temporary residency.
Right. So the fellow at the first desk that I went to took a bunch of information, uploaded some files onto my USB drive as part of the whole electronic signature. Once he was finished with me, I went to another desk where the gal took some more information and I think basically just double checked the work. From there, I went to yet another station where they took my picture. They did a bunch of like biometric stuff. They did fingerprints, took my picture, had me put on the goggles for the retina scan. And then she also uploaded some files onto that USB drive.
She who? You said she loaded. Who?
Right,
the lady that worked at the SAT office?
No, a random stranger. So after that, she gave me my paperwork back that the first guy had collected. And then I went to another desk where I logged in with a username and password that I had created for my account. And I input my RFC number and did a couple of other things too. And it took a little while for it to recognize my RFC number. I sat at the desk maybe 15 or 20 minutes, tried logging in a couple times, couldn't get it. Finally, they did. I was able to log in, verify my RFC number, and then I received a text message.
To your email?
No, I received a text message first. I clicked OK on a text message, and then I received an email basically verifying my email address, which I just clicked on OK to that. Once that process was done, I was good to go. Collected all of my paperwork. They handed me back my USB drive, which I now keep because it's got my electronic signature on it. In case I do any business online with the Mexican government, I need that electronic signature to copy up to their website, whatever that might be.
So
my
you didn't get
longer.
You didn't get $200 after passing go?
No $200 after passing go. Thankfully, I didn't go to jail either. I visited a lot of, like you said, like 4 different desks, but it went pretty quickly, I would say. And in the end, I walked out with an RFC number, so that's all good.
So that's how it's different from a temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was all at one desk only, and then we had to go sit and wait. I had brought our passport, copies of our passport, copies of our CFE, which is your electric bill, and copies of our residency visa. But none of this was asked for. So they did use the original CFE for me. Then I handed it to him when it was his turn. He used the original. So they, like I said, some of the questions that they asked us were cross streets, color of our house, did I have a pension, where it was coming from. She asked if I was going to permanent residency visa. I said yes, in a year. They never asked us how many people lived in the house like they did my friend Leah in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah.
So again, nothing is the same in Mexico. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So always be aware of that. Just because somebody did it this way last week, even in the same office, doesn't mean it's going to be the same for you. Flexibility is the key word. Flexibility.
Count on Mexico being consistently inconsistent.
True. Let's see, they asked for my email, my phone number, stuff like that. Then I was told to wait in the waiting area. They kept the CFE, they kept my visa. I figured out what the other thing was in my notes. That's why I take notes. That CURP.
CURP. And here we pronounce it CURP, you and I, but Mexicans I think pronounce it more like CORP.
Okay.
Like COORP.
It's spelled CURP.
CURP, yeah.
And they needed copies of that. So they had our CFE, they had a copy of our CURP number, and then our original visas.
And to be perfectly clear, they gave all that stuff back to us at the end.
Right. It's just they put it like in a clear envelope, and then they told you to sit and wait. Mm-hmm. Well, I think somebody else inputted the information into their database. And then after all is said and done, then they give you the paperwork back.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem. You don't leave without anything.
Although it was a bit unsettling not to have my residency card with me. Yeah.
Right. That's all that they needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I also asked if we could make copies of the paper that they printed out of our RFC, if that would be okay. And they said, that you could make copies.
Yeah.
So because banks might want it, buying a car, they might want it. I don't know who's going to want it, but it is okay to make copies of that. That's what I was told anyhow by the office. I personally thought it was very organized.
Yeah, so did I. A lot of people were coming and going, but I felt like we moved through it, as quickly as possible. They were waiting for one person to help us because I guess we had a special case. And she was in a meeting. We had to wait for her to get out of the meeting. But when she came out...
Well, we had to get approval from the manager.
Right. But when she came out, she helped us right away. And that was all good.
Yeah. And at the SAT office, there's more things to do.
Yeah.
So when you first go in, you have to go to the information desk, tell them why you're there. They give you a number, and then you sit down and wait until your number comes up.
Yep.
But it all worked very smoothly, I think, for us, and I'm so glad that we got it done.
Yep. Banking institutions a lot of times require you to have one. Sometimes buying a car, they'll require you to have one because they have to fill out a factura.
I think most of the
into
time
government.
now it's required to have one. I mean, I think we did the right thing by going in there. But if the people, I think the majority of people that were there, their numbers were like time to come in for their appointment, where we were not those people. We were the people that had a number, still had a long period of time to wait, but we told them the urgency that we needed to open a bank account and to buy a vehicle, which we will buy the vehicle. That's not a lie. It's just not today.
Nope. And then the other important thing that we did after this is it's important to get your RFC number put onto your electric bill.
Your CFE. All these things, right? Your RFC on your CFE.
Right. And the reason for that is that if you don't have your RFC on your electric bill, you can't qualify for capital gains if when the time comes to sell your house, if you're going to sell
Maybe
it.
you can't qualify for capital gains.
You don't get the capital gains tax break.
Tax break. Okay. Yeah. And I think Kuru Paul talked about that on one of his videos.
Yeah.
So at first, I went inside the CFE office because my name is on the CFE bill. So it only made sense that my RFC number went on it, which it did. And then she told me, I looked at everything. Of course, you verify everything on your RFC paperwork to make sure that it's perfect, your address is right, date of birth, your address, date of birth, I'm trying to think what else, phone number, email, stuff like that. You just verify that all that is correct. And they also have your CURP number on there too, so you need to read through that to make sure all that stuff is correct. If it's not, you need to tell them and they need to redo it. But don't wait until later, because if you look at it later, then you're going to have to make another trip. If you do it now and really look at each line item, you'll take care of things a lot quicker than making a second appointment. And the same thing when I went to the CFE office, she gave me the paperwork. I of course asked for it because I wanted to look at it. Whether she was going to give it to me or not, I don't know. But so I looked at it to verify all the information was correct, and it was. And then she said it would probably take a month before it showed up on our next electric bill.
Yeah, which for us probably means an extra electric bill, because the electric
Every
bill
2
comes
months.
every 2 months, and we had just gotten our most recent one.
Yeah. So in about 2 months, when the next one comes out, it should be on it.
Yep.
So let me see if there's any other stuff I forgot. I don't think so. Oh, didn't you do fingerprints? Did you say that you did fingerprints?
Yep. Fingerprints.
Was I not listening? Because I didn't hear you say about fingerprints.
Loco Gringa.
Well, anyhow, you know how that is. It's called selective listening. Sometimes you just kind of like void the hearing at all cost, sometimes not realizing that you should turn it back on.
Oh, let's face it, you just tuned me out.
Honey, I would never do that. Never.
All right, all you guys out there, does your wife do that to you? Selective hearing, tune you out, or only hears what she wants to hear?
I think that's it.
Let us know in the comments below.
But sorry, my voice, I have days where it's good, days where it's bad. Today it's bad, it's out. But yeah, it was a pretty simple process. I would say that honestly, if your Spanish skills are not that good, take one of your Spanish friends with you, because it made a world of difference, I think.
Yeah.
A world of difference.
Alex was a godsend for us.
Yeah, she was.
So.
She was very helpful. And of course, afterwards, we went over to our favorite place to eat. One of our favorite places. What is it?
Cafe Corteo.
Yeah.
If you come into San Luis Potosi, you got to go to Cafe Corteo for at least one meal.
Yeah, at least.
Or 2 or 3, 5 maybe.
And one other thing is at the first desk, the only desk that I went to, where Mark started at, before you leave that desk, like I said, you leave your copy of your original visa, temporary or permanent, and you leave your original CFE bill. At that point, though, before you leave that desk, they do hand you a paper or two. They handed me like 2, I think, possibly 3. That was like the RFC, which I was amazed because usually nobody ever gives you copies of anything. It's like you have to go down the street, around the block, make a copy, come back and give it to them. But they had a copier right there at her desk, which was amazing.
You know, in that respect, that office was unlike any other governmental office I've been in Mexico, because Paulette is right. I mean, if you need to make copies, even if they do have a copier machine there, they won't let you make copies. You got to go down to some other place,
so bizarre,
print shop, make copies and come back. But they had all the stuff right there.
Yeah, because I had a copy. I had a copy of it, but they didn't take mine. They used their own copy. They made another copy of it. So, you know, whatever works, whatever floats their boat and gets me my RFC, I'm a happy camper. It doesn't matter. So I guess that's it until the next time we meet. As always, from the 2 travelers in Mexico.
What she did.
Bye, guys.
Bye.